in my opinion, the most fundamental thing that a person can have is just self-reflection. And if you know the things that make you happy, you can then go ahead and achieve them.
For many people in the world, there is a moment of clarity when you see the world differently than you saw it previously. Those are the moments when we wake up to life. I'm Rabbi Josh Bennett, and this is Waking Up to Life, a podcast about those moments. Today on the podcast, I have the honor of welcoming Lauren Deitch to the studio. And Lauren grew up here at Temple Israel. She was a youth group participant and graduated from our high school. Her family has been long involved at the Temple. Lauren is currently the CEO and founder of Atlas College Marketing. And it's great to have you on the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
It's a pleasure. So, Lauren, I've obviously known you as a high school kid, and you've grown up into a successful businesswoman. But your story is actually not necessarily about your business. It's about something that happened to you while you were in high school, participating in the Temple Israel Monday Night School program. So, share with us the story about getting ice cream with your dad.
Sure. So, really, when I think about enlightenment or something that strikes me as very significant in my life, I don't look at it as one singular moment. I really kind of look at things over the course of time. So really formative experiences for me in my life happened around the high school time. So while I was participating in Monday Night School, before I could drive myself, my dad would drive me to Monday Night School and then pick me up, and after Monday Night School, we would go to Baskin-Robbins on Orchard Lake Road, and we would sit there and have ice cream and talk about what happened at Monday Night School, or just talk about what happened during our day. Basically, anything went in terms of our conversation. But what was really impactful was my dad just sat there and listened to me. So at the time, I'm a young high schooler. I have a million thoughts, a million emotions, and he just allowed me the space to talk. I shared ideas. I shared my beliefs in terms of, how do I feel about things politically? How do I feel about the current events that are happening? What do I want to do in my future to affect change? And how can I basically grow into, an enlightened human being, basically? So it was really impactful. And I felt like after those ice cream dates unfortunately ended, because then I could drive myself to and from Monday Night School, I felt like I just had so much confidence in myself, and I felt so prepared to basically have a successful future. So that was what I viewed as enlightenment.
It's amazing. It's a great story, and I want to come back to the empowerment that you found in that, but most importantly, what flavor ice cream did you order each week?
So it was peanut butter and chocolate. It had these amazing, Baskin-Robbins was the best, and I really miss that location. But I can't eat anymore because my husband's allergic to peanuts. So I really cherished those ice creams for many reasons.
It happens that peanut butter chocolate is my favorite Baskin-Robbins flavor. Those little layers of peanut butter that are all the way through. It's fantastic. So it's an incredible story, not only because of what you described as your enlightenment, but it also reflected this wonderful relationship between you and your dad. So as an adult now, I don't want to ask you about specific conversations you have, but as an adult, how has it changed the way you go about your life as a partner now in a marriage, as a business person? What do you carry with you, and what do you think that did for you?
Well, it instilled a lot of self-confidence, which is really hard to find when you're a young adult, and when you're growing up in, very vibrant community. But I became very decisive, and that really helped me in my future because I could go into anything that I wanted to basically unabashed. And I felt like there were no holds barred in terms of what I wanted to study, what I wanted to do for my job, how I wanted to, be a partner with my husband. I felt so much confidence, and that I feel like has helped me through every single facet of my life. Helps me in business, helps me in interpersonal relationships. So I found that to be very valuable.
It's so interesting to me to hear you talk because obviously, as a middle school girl and a high school girl, those are tough years. Did you realize at the time that something was changing, or did it actually happen later that you sort of looked back longingly at those conversations and said, "This really changed my life"?
I think maybe in college there was a little bit of realization. Sometimes when you're in the moment, it's hard to see beyond what's happening or any of the drama in high school or middle school or what have you. But once I started to kind of find my own in college, I really realized that I attributed that to the way that my parents raised me, the way that my dad during these conversations instilled this, you know, confidence and maturity within me. So that was really kind of the moment as I'm growing and have more responsibilities. That's when I kind of realized how formative those moments were.
So in a way, those conversations actually gave you the tools. You didn't start applying those tools right away. You've applied those over the course of career. And now talk a little bit about Atlas and your company. Where do you find it? Where do you find you maybe giving those same moments to your employees, to people that you work with? How are you empowering others to do what your dad did for you?
Well, basically, what my company does is we provide jobs for students. We connect brands with college students to promote on their campuses. And I find that I empower my students all the time because some of these students are on campus, they need an extra job, they need something to maybe give them a little bit of purpose. And I find that doing this small job of handing out flyers or putting up posters, it could really be life-changing for these students when they go to apply for jobs or even just having a little bit of extra money in their pockets so that they can buy books. Every student's very different, but for the ones that are receptive, I love to be, somewhat of a mentor and keep in touch with my students even beyond graduation so that I can make sure that they're doing well, hear about what's happening in their life, and just continue that positive relationship and positive trajectory.
I'm certain that the people you've worked with look to you as that same mentor. Do you ever, in the middle of those relationships, realize it's happening? Like, have you ever had a conversation with one of your employees or a former employee and said, wow, I really changed that person?
Well, I don't know. I don't know the extent to which I've changed their life or whether it's just this journey that they're on in college and from freshman year to senior year, they're just growing naturally. But there are certain times where students reach out to me and they want to do a phone call. They want to hear about how I bought this company and what it's like to work for yourself. And so in those moments, I find it very, I guess, inspiring to see that this is making an impact on somebody and they want to then do what I did and work for themselves. And but it's kind of hard to, know whether that's completely to me or whether, it's just the natural progression of a college student.
You're being far too modest. I think it's fair to say that those first jobs are transformative, right? They take people who didn't know they had that ability and turn them into something next. I'm interested as you sort of think back about being that teenage girl and then watching other teenagers, young adults, become mature and thoughtful contributors to the society. Do you have advice for somebody who might be listening to this podcast that you learned from those conversations that maybe they can take with them if they don't have a dad having those conversations with them? Is there something you can share that's sort of an insightful, this is something that you know or you can know about yourself that will change your trajectory?
I think the most important thing is knowing yourself. That's really, in my opinion, the most fundamental thing that a person can have is just self-reflection. And if you know the things that make you happy, you can then go ahead and achieve them. From a very young age, I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what I wanted to achieve. And that was really helpful in my life journey. Some students and some young adults don't exactly have that. And they don't have either, the self-reflection or the self-confidence to know exactly what it is that they want to do. So I think that the first step, especially when, it comes time to applying for jobs or, going out into the post-grad life, you need to know what makes you happy at your core, not what obviously there's so many societal expectations, but I think that if people just maybe try to mute those for a second and think about what really they want to do and what they would find fulfilling and they might find enlightenment in, that's the most important thing that they should listen to.
So when you went to college, did you know what you wanted to do? Did you change majors? And what's that look like for you in your history?
So when I went to college, I knew, and it's funny, Rabbi Josh, because we had a conversation when I was really young. I was in, I don't know if it was Hebrew school. I think it was. And you asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I said, I want to be a wife and a mom. And I think you were a little bit taken aback by that because when you hear a young child say what they want to be when they grow up, they say, I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a doctor. I want to do something so spectacular. I always knew I wanted to marry someone amazing and have a beautiful family. So when I went to college, I thought, I know that I'm good at communicating. I like to talk. Let me just use that as my major. I know that I'll be able to find something that I'm good at and apply myself. And we'll just go from there. I didn't have a really strong connection to any type of career, any type of industry, but I figure if I do this 4-year education, it'll lead me to where I need to be. That was slightly to the dismay of my parents because it sounds very vague. Oh, I'll just find a job that I'll like and I'll be fine at it. Luckily, Atlas College Marketing kind of fell into my lap in my junior year of college. So I knew immediately that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to have the kind of career where I could have a family and make a beautiful home and still be able to provide some kind of productiveness for myself. I didn't just want to sit at home and bake cookies all day, but I didn't want to work a 9-to-5 job like a lot of people do. So it really was just knowing that whatever I do, I'll be okay at it. And finding Atlas was really the key to, this whole.
I love what you're saying because it's not that you're denigrating being a mom, right? Moms and housewives are really powerful people. They have a full-time job, but you were able to find a path to allow you to do both of those things. And you've gotten married. You don't have children yet, but this is exactly the fulfillment of your dream. I love that you actually transformed that. I don't remember the question that I asked you, but I love this idea that you are able to balance both sides of your soul in something meaningful and transformative in the world. And I'm guessing that your husband is benefiting from that strong, vibrant personality who is able to be in both worlds at once. And I'm sure the skills that you're talking about actually work in every relationship, friendships, business, marriage. So I can't help but in this conversation think about something from Jewish tradition that is striking me. There's the story of Moses wandering in the desert, and there's the burning bush, right? We all hear the story that Moses turns and sees the burning bush, and that is the experience of God. But one of the ways the rabbis interpret that is that he actually noticed something that was there anyway. And I can't hear your story without thinking to myself that you had all of these qualities already inside of you, but your dad unlocked the ability for you to notice about yourself. So when you think of yourself now as a businesswoman, as a friend, as a partner, what is it that you bring to those relationships that makes you an outstanding person in the world?
Well, I bring a lot of decisiveness, and I think that that's really important. I have a lot of conversations. I sit on the board of NextGen. I'm involved with APAC. I'm involved in a lot of really wonderful organizations, and I think that the ability to sit there and say, this is something that we should do, or this is something that I find important, and to say that with your chest, I think is something that is really useful in those situations and in those relationships. If something's not serving you, the ability to look at it and say, this isn't great, I'm going to change it. And just having those decisive qualities, and it all goes back to self-confidence. Knowing that you can express how you feel and not be ashamed of it at all, I think is very important.
Yeah, and that's really the I think for me the core of your story today. It's not that your dad unlocked some wonderful potential in you. It's that you opened your eyes, you saw yourself, you saw the opportunity to really bring you into the world, and that has now resulted in all sorts of amazing things. And I think that is the real takeaway for me, is that we all have that power. Some of us, like you, are lucky enough to have somebody help you unlock that power, but to know who you are, to be yourself, to, I think, be a star in this world that, by the way, needs stars, right? We need, in a fairly broken world, people who are going to move us forward. And you have clearly done that in your business. You've clearly done that in your personal relationships. And I have to be honest, it's such a joy for me to watch you grow up into this spectacular adult from that little girl who told me she wanted to be a mom and a wife. And I love that for you. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
So we're getting near the end of the podcast. And one of the things that I've been asking everybody who comes on is there something now, a book that you're reading, a television show that you're watching that is sort of interesting and life-affirming to you that you can share with people on the podcast?
That's a really good question. I've just been I've finished a couple really great books recently, but they're novels and they're interesting stories. To me, what I find really moving, I go on daily walks with my dog, and we've been doing this thing where I'll put him in front of a beautiful flower or a gorgeous budding tree, and I'll take a picture of him in front of it. I call it, patches in nature. And every time I walk by a lilac bush, I always make sure I put my face against it and sniff it. And to me, that is like the most amazing thing that I experience every single day. We go through our life so quickly, and things are so crazy and things are so busy that going on these daily walks with my dog, it's something that I find really meaningful. I can watch a million interesting documentaries, which I do. I just watched a very interesting one about prison. But to me, it's those simple rituals that I do every day that just bring me life, and I find to be life-changing.
I love what you said. You talked about unlocking the world, right? You actually are embodying the story of Moses. You are looking around the world and you're actually seeing things that you walk by every day. I also love that you're forcing your dog to see those things.
Right.
Are you guys Instagram famous yet?
No.
Is that coming soon?
I tried to monetize my dog when I first got him, but it's a lot of work, and I have my hands full with the college students. So to add a dog social media page, that would have been a lot.
Not ready for children yet, right? We're going to hold off on that.
Right.
Just take the pictures with the dog.
Yeah.
I love it. It's such an enlightening thing for me to hear you say this, that we walk through this world really with our eyes closed all the time, and just taking a moment to take a breath in. And to bring it full circle, your dad really gave you those moments. Those moments with your father were those same eye-opening opportunities to say, this is a big world, there's a lot out there, and I have the chance to make a difference. And Lauren, you have really made a difference.
Thank you. Well, I do also want to say, those moments with my dad were very formative, but I experience those on a daily basis with everybody that I surround myself with. I'm very inspired by the people in this community, and they show me the same kind of, eye-opening experiences that I shared with my dad many years ago. So it takes a village, and I really couldn't be the person I am without, obviously, my parents and my family, but all these wonderful community leaders that I'm lucky enough to spend time with.
It's a great way for us to end. I think that we are lucky to be a part of this community, and I'm lucky to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. This was really, really wonderful.
So we've come to the end of another podcast, Waking Up to Life, 18 Minutes with Rabbi Josh. I hope you'll take these lessons from today's conversation with Lauren Deitch with you for the week, and continue to wake up to life. L'chaim.
L'chaim.